The fans here in the Silverdome, they're anticipating a great 250 main event as we look forward to it. Jeremy McGrath, who has a points lead of 50 points. That's the equivalent of 2 races. Surveying the track right now. As we take a look at the point situation, McGrath has that 50-point advantage over Mike LaRocco, and then it gets really tight. Pichon and Ward tied for third. Ezra Lusk has not finished out of the top 3 the last 3 years, and he's only 5 points out of third. So we've got a good point situation behind Jeremy McGrath, that's for sure. Mikel Pichon is in a good position to do well this year, and he's the subject of this week's Honda Close-Up. Mikel Pichon, a 4-time French Supercross motocross champion, came to the United States in hopes of more championship titles. He did just that in '95 and '96 by winning the 125 East Supercross Championship for Team Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Although he won the title in '96, he had one of the most horrifying crashes in Supercross history. It came in Atlanta. Pichon had to step off his bike in midair to avoid landing on a downed rider. Fortunately, he was not injured seriously. However, his luck wasn't as good during the '97 Supercross opener in Los Angeles. Ward, the fans on their feet as we get a look from behind Larry at that beacon down at the hole shot area.
There you see McGrath, Art. He's lined up a little bit more to the inside this time.
Robbie Raynard, Ward, Carmichael, LaRocco, Pichon, Lamson, Ferry, Button, Lusk, Albertine, they're all there as the 30-second board is up.
Well, to McGrath's inside, he's got Carmichael, then Tim Ferry, then Raynard, then Larry Ward, then LaRocco, then Lusk. Albertine's lined up all the way to the inside spot. There's McGrath again, sandwiched between Pichon and Carmichael. A lot of talent on the starting line.
The board is sideways. They'll start revving them up, and the gate will drop now any second. And our main event from the Superdome in Pontiac is underway. McGrath, the hole shot. And Ezra Lusk is behind him with Jimmy Button to Lusk's outside. Coming through the inside and moving into second place is Robbie Raynard, number 17. Boy, what a turnaround this would be for Robbie Raynard if he can hold on out front.
It looked like Lusk had second locked up, and Raynard just shot right past him. Took it over. Raynard's so fast in the opening laps. That's where Jeremy's usually able to get away. Maybe he won't be able to do it this time.
So the order is McGrath, Raynard, Ward, and Lusk battling for third, with Pichon in fifth. Jimmy Button in sixth. And behind Jimmy Button is Steve Lamson, Ricky Carmichael, Damon Huffman, and number 3, Mike LaRocco.
Keep your eyes on Ward. He made a slick move, got around Pichon. He almost had Lusk as well. And remember, he hung with his teammate Raynard in the heat race. Those two pulled away.
The first lap completed. Jeremy McGrath notches another one. But Robbie Raynard is right there.
Yeah, but look at that line of McGrath. Did you see that? He just looks back at Raynard going, okay, if you can't do this, you can't beat me.
Jeremy McGrath has led 97 laps this year.
I don't think it gets boring, though.
Robbie Raynard losing some ground to Jeremy McGrath is in second. But our real race might be with his teammate Larry Ward in third. And then 2 Hondas, Lusk and Pichon.
Well, Ward is right there. This is his strong point at the beginning of the race. This race for so long, has so much experience, been so consistent in the top 10 throughout his career. He's able to take advantage of little mistakes in the early laps. That's when guys are most vulnerable. You've been sitting around in the pits, up in the big rigs. You got to be up to speed in a matter of moments, and Larry Ward does it well.
Ward's had a good season this year. He's averaged 2 podiums a year throughout his career, and he already has 4 this season. In a battle with Lusk, number 4. This is Ward's best podium year since 1995 when he had 7 and finished second in the points to guess who? Jeremy McGrath.
Now you can see their view up to the leader, McGrath, who surprisingly has not been able to shake Robbie Reynard, even though he's jumped that section in what we call on the back straightaway. Both times he's done it perfect, and Reynard has closed the gap again on him.
As the riders gear for a push for second place in the points, championship points behind McGrath, LaRocco, who is currently in second, is in 7th.
Now Ward's sitting in pretty good shape right now because he's ahead of both Pichon and LaRocco, who he's battling with for that position, second in the points. Look at Lusk.
Lusk puts on a burst of speed to pass Larry Ward to move into third. Lusk only 5 points out of third place in the championship points race. He's had a second place finish and 2 third place finishes in the last 3 years.
Lusk is in a good position right now. You still can see Jeremy. We've already got some laps in the books, and Jeremy is not out of sight. Lusk is a fast finisher, and as long as he stays out of trouble in the opening lap, which to me it seems like we've passed, he doesn't do anything but get stronger. And having won the last 2 times here in the Silverdome, we may have a little something for Jeremy in the end.
LaRocco's moved up to 6th after passing Jimmy Button. Out front, Jeremy McGrath and Robbie Reynard. Reynard's not that far behind. And as Lusk is trying to make a play to catch up with those 2 in third. Here's Mike LaRocco, number 3.
He's just losing time. He's got Button right behind him, then Albertine, then Ferry, top privateer right now.
We're taking a look at the leader, Jeremy McGrath, and Robbie Reynard is putting some heat on the champion.
But that's where McGrath pulls away every time. He's able to jump into that section and get a burst of power off the top of that sort of double plateau there, and he triples rather through the rest of that straightaway. See the gap he got over Reynard right there.
Right.
Reynard's got to work hard to close that back up, only to lose it again in that same straightaway.
Still behind Reynard. This is the order. Lusk, Ward, Pichon, and LaRocco now. Number 17, Robbie Reynard.
You can see the gap back to Lusk. That's not big enough to discount Lusk at the end of this race.
Well, Robbie Reynard, even though he's fairly close to McGrath right now, is looking for his first podium of the season. And you can see the interval right there, just a bike length. 14 laps to go.
You know, Berlutti's got to be happy with the way Robbie's riding right now, but there again, he's not able to go for that same section of triples. McGrath gets a little gap there. I'm surprised that Reynard is able to stay that close.
Our field summary: McGrath, Reynard, Lusk, Ward, and Pichon, the top 5. Reynard's previous best performance this year was a 4th in Phoenix.
Well, if he can stay at least this close to McGrath all the way to the final laps, that would be a great ride for him, and be able to take advantage possibly of a miscue by McGrath working his way through the lapped riders as we get towards the end.
Our third place rider, Ezra Lusk. He's had his ups and downs this year. Crashed at Minnesota 20th.
Now, he's riding as hard as he can, but he seems to, in the last 3 laps, the gap stayed about the same.
And then in St. Louis in the next round, he moved back into the top 5 with a fine 5th place performance. Here's our leader, Jeremy McGrath. And Reynard still is not.
Now this time McGrath messed up his timing and Reynard got close. So that's the difference through that straightaway, Art. If McGrath is able to triple through there, he can kind of get rid of Reynard for a moment.
Out of the stands they go. Jeremy McGrath and Robbie Reynard making a race of it now. Davey Combs.
I tell you what, I'm watching that section. David Bailey's talking about. You guys are exactly right, but the thing is, Jeremy starts it out better, but Reynard ends it better. And if he gets it right, David, it might be just as fast, and it's much less dangerous.
Well, he doesn't have to take the chance. He doesn't quite have the confidence in his timing the way Jeremy does. And Jeremy towards the later part of this race, when that gets more rutted and he's not unable to do it consistently, and Raynard's this close still, we may see a pass at the end of there.
As Jeremy comes around the corner and over the finish line jump, there are now 12 laps to go.
Yeah, Berluti putting on the board, take him if you're ready. And Jeremy can see that on his way by. He's probably going, yeah. He ain't taking nothing.
Jeremy, as we mentioned earlier, fighting the flu early in the week and food poisoning just before, holding off Robbie Raynard.
This would be the week for Raynard to keep the pressure on at all costs. They've got such a gap now. Raynard could make a big mistake, get tight, and still wind up on the podium.
Here's the battle for fourth. Larry Ward, Bichon trying to make a move on him. Bichon from Team Honda, number 5. Larry Ward, Team Suzuki, number 7.
These guys are tied in points.
Good observation. They've got something really to race for in the extra bucks.
They're both ahead of LaRocco right now, so they're gaining a little bit on him.
LaRocco's 5 seconds behind Bichon as Bichon looking for the opportunity to cut in front of Larry Ward. Now they've got 11 laps to go here at the Silverdome. Stay tuned. We've got more Supercross action from the Silverdome coming up.
Forced to really dig deep, and we had Huffman pressuring him at our last round in St. Louis. He was able to hold on. Proved he had the stamina to go all the way to the end.
Larry Ward's best performance of the year, no question about that, the win in Seattle. He's had 4 previous podiums in this season. Lee McCullen, his mechanic, looks like he needs to get a signboard saying breathe. He was holding his breath there for a moment.
Yeah, it's nervous time down there for the mechanics. They put probably more into this than the riders do. These guys spend their life working on that bike and keeping their fingers crossed that the rider's done his homework.
Let's check in with Davey Combs.
Hey, I think David Bailey had a very astute observation there a moment ago. Tony Berluti may have held that board out just a little too far, because no sooner did Jeremy McGrath see that if he looks ready, take him board, that he took off.
Yeah, he is starting to break the spirit of Raynard a little bit. He pulled away. Raynard seemed like simultaneously started to stand up a little bit more. That's kind of a sign of getting a little bit winded. Bichon made the move on Larry Ward.
Yes, Bichon up a notch now.
Well, looks like Larry is already kind of peeking over his shoulder to see where Button is.
Mikel Bichon, a steady ride for third in the last round. And here's Mike LaRocco. And his target is Larry Ward.
He may get both Ward and Bichon, because LaRocco is carving out about a second a lap with both those guys.
We're at the halfway point of this race in the Silverdome.
That's a lot of laps left. You're already starting to feel it a little bit.
Mike LaRocco with 7 podiums on the season. And there you see LaRocco pulling up on Larry Ward.
These guys are approaching the section, and they jump off of this jump right here, land the beginning of that plateau. That's where McGrath has reestablished his timing to pull away from Raynard. LaRocco gets around Larry Ward right there, so Ward is not comfortable through that section. That's where he loses all of his time.
The top privateer in this race is Tim Ferry in 8th position, as we take a look at Mike LaRocco.
Starting to get rutted.
Jeremy McGrath has now leaped over the finish line. He's got 8 more laps. Looking for his 7th win of the year.
Well, while McGrath just cruises and pulling away in the process, Lusk has really closed the gap on Raynard now. So we're looking at a battle for second. There goes McGrath up the hill, back down. Heading up right there just on the other side. both Raynard and Lusk.
Number 1, Jeremy McGrath. You know, this is known as Bob Hanna's house. As we take a look at the battle for second place now, Robbie Raynard has got the pressure from behind from Ezra Lusk. I was going to say, David Bailey, you were one of those who swept a doubleheader here in the Silver Dome. And back in those doubleheader days, boy, if you were on a roll, you could rack up the wins quickly.
Yeah, but it worked good for me there in 1986. A couple of wins.
Here comes Ezra Lusk. Ezra Lusk moving into second.
But it can work the other way, too. I've had some of those doubleheaders coming in here with a foot injury and lost a lot of points, a 6th and a 10th. That was the year that my teammate O'Meara won the title, and where I lost a chunk of points there.
A good move by Ezra Lusk to get around Robbie Raynard. So Raynard now holding on, trying to get that final podium spot. And the battle for 4th is now heated up. LaRocco. And that's Pichon number 5.
Well, it's a shame Raynard didn't seem to have the stamina to hang on, but, you know, it's a step forward. Unless he blows it terribly somewhere, he's got the podium. That's a place to start, and he definitely kept McGrath honest there for a while.
Pichon in 4th, trying to hold off Mike LaRocco. Ward has moved back to 6th. Button is now in 7th.
Rails into that berm.
Oh, those ruts are getting deep.
Well, if they look bad from here, you know that when you get down on the racetrack, you're up to the foot pegs. That's one thing I was never that comfortable with, and it was always rutted here.
Rocco's got his timing down now. They didn't come through the whoops. Come up under the back tire of Mikel Pichon.
Well, I've always said it, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the way that LaRocco started throughout his career, but just the more laps, the better for Mike. If he's with 30-lap mains, he'd be on the podium every time.
Mike LaRocco with only really one bad race on the season. That was the 12th place in Dallas when he had a crash with Ezra Lusk. But he started out the season with 3 consecutive third-place finishes and then a 2nd place in Seattle, a 4th, a 6th, a 6th, then that 12th in Dallas, a 3rd, a 6th, a 3rd, and a 2nd in the last round. Pichon got passed by Ward. Larry Ward, number 7 on the Team Suzuki.
This is the battle for 3rd in the point standings right here. LaRocco still holding on to 2nd. Going to extend that if he can stay ahead of both Ward and Pichon.
And Lusk likely might move into 3rd. Should he hold the 2nd spot?
Well, it is tight. If it weren't for McGrath, we'd have one heck of a series going.
Jeremy McGrath, he's won here 3 times in 93, 94, and 96.
And it looks to me like we got 2 guys on the racetrack that are putting in some hot laps to close this race. One is Ezra Lusk, who hasn't given up on catching McGrath, and Larry Ward right here. He is making a last-ditch effort to get around LaRocco and try to close in on the points.
It would be very meaningful come Las Vegas time to look back and say, boy, I wish I could have passed him that one time in Pontiac.
I've won a championship by 2 points. You don't want to be having to go back and rewind the tape thinking, boy, if I just could have got that point. Just go for it when you have the opportunity.
Lusk is 6 seconds in back of the leader, McGrath, with 4 laps to go. Here's our leader, Jeremy McGrath. The all-time winner here at the Silverdome is Bob Hanna with 9 victories. Bradshaw is next with 4. And, of course, Jeremy McGrath could tie Bradshaw for the 2nd winningest rider here in the Silverdome.
Yeah, thinking about McGrath coming in here sick. Hanna came in here sick one year, and even in a pre-race interview, he was saying, yeah, well, these guys will all smile tonight, and then they'll get I'll kick their butts next week. He and I ended up going 1st and 2nd. I had a sprained ankle, and Bob thought he was holding me up, so he let me by. Then I felt later in the race as though I was holding him up, so I let him by. And then he yelled at me after the race, and don't you ever let me by like that.
Even though he let you by first,
yeah,
huh?
That was a memorable race.
Well, this great champion, Jeremy McGrath, is on his way, as we take a look at the Honda stopwatch, of gathering up his 59th career Supercross victory.
Lusk just got held up by a lapper behind him.
And third place is a century away. Robbie Raynard, number 17. Check out LaRocco in fourth. A good 33 seconds behind the lead.
And there you can tell LaRocco has answered the challenge Larry Ward placed on him a couple laps ago and opened that gap back up. There goes Huffman, starting to charge a little bit. Looks like he can still get around Button before it's over.
And Button is pretty close to Pichon. That might be the only battle left. As we take a look at the leader, Jeremy McGrath. Less than 2 laps to go.
That was normally the straightaway where McGrath would be tripling. He lost a lot of time. Lusk, there's his lap time, a 1:06, a little longer than usual because the track designers got a little creative by shuffling the starting line around so they could get a 6th lane in here, a little bit longer track. Plus it goes up in the stands at one point, so it's a longer main event than usual.
Lusk now 5.5 seconds in back of the leader. There's Pichon having some trouble getting through the lappers.
Lusk never gives up.
That's Damon Huffman, number 31 of Team Kawasaki, right in front of Pichon.
Well, this is going to hurt Pichon in the points. He was in good position and just didn't have it. Both these guys getting around. It's going to bump him back.
1 lap to go. It is the final lap for Jeremy McGrath and crew. Amazing. Our points leader with a great chance to sew the crown up in New Orleans.
That was a little ugly. Not the nice smooth approach that he's been getting up to that triple. Losing a little bit of time to Lusk, but it's all calculated. He knew he could slow up just enough to still get this win. This is the corner where last year he was knocked out.
Right. He's working for his 5th consecutive win. His best last year was 4 in a row. Jeremy McGrath takes the checkered flag. Ezra Lusk in 2nd. And a long way back to 3rd. But Jeremy McGrath, his 7th win of the year, his 59th career win. 5 in a row, besting his longest win streak of last year, as we mentioned, and ties him with 4 wins at Pontiac. McGrath, a big favorite, as you can tell, from the fans here in Pontiac. So with the new do and all, he'll head to the victory podium to talk to Davey Coombs when we return. In this historic venue of Supercross, in fact, more Supercrosses have been run in the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan than any other. This was our 39th, and Jeremy McGrath comes out on top. As we take a look at the list of finishers, the top 10, Lusk in 2nd, Raynard with his first podium in 3rd, LaRocco in 4th, Ward, Button, Huffman, and Pichon. Davey Coombs, interesting evening.
Yes, it was, but you know what? It had the same ending as it's had for a while now. Jeremy McGrath, 59 career wins, a little close to the 1999 title. Congratulations.
Well, thanks a lot, Davey. You know, it was a hard night. You know, we started on the outside on the heat race thinking it was a little better line and got pushed out. So went to Bridgestone, got some better tires. Bike was hooking up good. We moved inside. I came flying out of the gate, and I was right in front right away, and that sure helped.
I got to ask you, at one point, Robbie Raynard was staying pretty close to you about halfway through the race, but his mechanic held out a board that said, "Take him if you can." Did you see that?
No, this corner here where the mechanics were, it's kind of hard to see, so I really wasn't watching his, but I kind of knew he was right behind me. I was taking my time. The track's really difficult tonight, and I figured, you know, if I can try and make as least mistakes as possible for 20 laps, then I would assume that he would drop off the pace a little bit. So I was just trying to ride my own race, and I wasn't even looking at my own pit board.
Well, it's often a good job, Jer.
Thanks a lot. I'd like to thank Mazda, 800 Collect, Chaparral, No Fear, and my mechanic, Randy Lawrence, trainer, Corey Wharf, and the whole team. Thanks.
Jeremy McGrath taking a 57-point lead over